Hello, Candice Oneida here, and welcome to Feminine Success Secrets. In this week's episode, I'm going to talk to you about how to balance masculine and feminine. This week's episode is inspired by a question that came through from a subscriber. Hello, Candice. First, I would like to say I love your website and videos and really appreciate your movement of remembering the divine feminine. Living in such a masculine-dominated world, I'm trying daily to live as my divine feminine, but it can be difficult at times. Therefore, I have a question for you. How do you balance the divine feminine with ego? I find that I try to be more receptive, softer, vulnerable, and open, but I encounter situations or people that frustrate me, and I resort back into the masculine way of dealing with it. Veronica. Now, there's many ways I could answer this, to be honest. The balancing of masculine and feminine, or how I refer to it as, is the ability to fluidly move from masculine to feminine consciously and with awareness. Okay? Most of the women that work with me are successful executives or entrepreneurs. And so I know that you have probably a pretty well-established masculine. So I'm not here to suggest or discuss with you that you should eliminate masculine ways, know-how, ability to do things from the masculine. That doesn't make sense. That'd be a little bit like me saying, okay, we're going to cut off your right arm now, and we're going to start to build up strength in your left arm. That's just silly and doesn't make sense. Masculine and feminine are principles and forces that are inside every human being, whether you're a man or a woman. And what I have found, and this is my story too, remember, is that when we highly developed our masculine as women, that's when we start to get exhausted, overwhelmed, burnt out, and we're not having any fun anymore. And so the development or redevelopment or learning of the feminine arts is what we need to sort of fill out our experience of our life, our work, our relationships. So I guess what I'm saying here is that I have no objection to somebody going into their masculine when you decide to do that. If the masculine represents things like action and doing and structural know-how, then I'm all for that. I have a well-developed masculine. I'm totally into technology and I love structuring things. I've got a very structured week. These things are masculine concepts and know-how, right? And so if the feminine in this example is more about compassion and opening and understanding in the light of the question, then there's times that we can just hold a space from the feminine if somebody's being frustrating around us, and people are frustrating all the time. Or we can go back to the concept of needing to create boundaries, and that's neither a masculine or feminine concept. That's, this is a boundary, this is not okay behavior, this is not good for me, this is my boundary, okay? So I guess what I'm trying to do is build the understanding of how I use the principles and forces of masculine and feminine, and deciding that something doesn't feel good for you or not feel good for you is neither a masculine nor a feminine concept. Now, if you react when somebody's behaving badly, then that's probably eventually not going to feel good to you. That's ultimately not going to feel good inside of yourself. A reaction is something where we close off, right? So the way Veronica wrote this question, it sounded a little bit like she closed off. Now let's make sure that we don't associate masculine with closing and feminine with opening. That's too basic, and it's a gross misunderstanding of masculine and feminine principles. Now, when I train women over time, I do talk about the difference between what I call false feminine and false masculine, and true feminine and true masculine. And even the way I did that with my hands, it's like lower mode feminine masculine and higher mode feminine masculine. I don't have the time to go into that in detail right now, but we could say in general, lower mode feminine and masculine is more about the closing and the reactions, and the higher mode of masculine and feminine is more about the ability to be open and reverent and central. That's when you're in your king or in your queen. So this concept out there of balancing masculine, feminine, or people talking about, well, where are you on the spectrum of masculine, feminine? My observation in myself and in others is it doesn't just stay in one place. Okay, I know that when I was a corporate woman, I was starting my businesses, I was definitely way more in the masculine spectrum when I was doing life and when I was working and when I was trying to do relationships from there, which doesn't work. That's another whole video. But as I've learned how to bring the feminine into my life, my relationships, my business, and of course my spiritual practice, there's this whole sense of a broadening of my perspective. I heard somebody, I think it was Mama Gina, brought this concept of what we don't want to happen is you're a concert pianist and you're just playing a few notes in the middle of the keyboard. We want you to be able to play all the way up this end of the keyboard and all the way up this end of the keyboard. So we want to be symphonic in our self-expression. We want to be able to shine in the tinkling high notes and in the deep, dark, low notes, right? And so that's the full expression of yourself. So let's just change this paradigm a little bit, as we want to be able to have what I call soul flexibility. We want to be able to move up and down the keyboard and express ourselves in a multitude of ways, but we want to be able to be really conscious as we're doing it. If you like this week's video, I'd love a thumbs up. I love your comments below, and any questions, I go in there and I answer them frequently. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, subscribe over here. When you have the courage to go out there and shine, you give others permission to do the same. So let's go out there and shine this week.